Welcome to the Cleaning with Purpose podcast. I'm Charlie. I'm going to host this.
I'm Dave.
And you are?
Owner of Crystal Clean.
Yay! Jeff?
I'm Jeff, and general manager of Crystal Clean.
And you and I have been working together for quite a while now on videos and really helping the world understand. And I just want to celebrate the fact that when you do that work, you are on it. You speak extemporaneously. You really understand the values. We'll cover that today as we think through the history of Crystal Clean. And Dave, I can't wait to hear some of the stories that you've got. But the big part is, Jeff, is that we're very appreciative of the fact that when you get on video, it's usually a one-cut wonder, and you just go to town on whatever the topic is, and you're very educated. And so another thing that I want to celebrate right out of the gate as we start this podcast is, in today's world especially, I'm from Michigan. So the Michigan scene, back in the day, people returned their calls. They answered their calls with love, care, compassion, typically. So down here in Florida, when you have shared with me that if people call in for a quote or an estimate or whatever that is, you turn that stuff around immediately and you're on it, you and the team. And I just want to make sure as we start this podcast that we're real clear about some of these values that we bring to the table. With that being shared, Jeff, is there anything you want to add to that?
Maybe it's the Midwest values. You know, Dave is from Illinois originally. I'm from Indiana, and you're from Michigan. We're all right there, and similar era. And I agree. Being responsive and compassionate to people is kind of how we were all brought up. So I hope we bring some of that to Southwest Florida. We certainly try to, and we want people to feel like they have a partner in Crystal Clean, not just a cleaning company.
Yeah, and I feel like you're living to it 1,000%. So I just want to celebrate that. Dave, any comments as we think about that?
No, I agree. Florida is a melting pot. There's people move here from all over the country and all over the world, but and they bring their own style, approach to business and such. But yeah, the Midwest is a little different. Blue collar, hardworking, take an interest in people, not just in money, as it were. And for me personally, I've never been a hard sell kind of person like you picture a used car salesman. That's just not me. We go in with the approach that, how can we help you? Yeah. And I will say this many times on bid walks, whether you choose us or not, I suggest you do this and this because you help people.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get into that a little bit later, but that's something I learned from Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
Some of the younger folks never heard of him, but he was a precursor to Anthony Robbins and Jim Rohn and those type of people. But excellent attitude. If you help people, you'll get what you need.
And that's a huge testament to a couple things that I wanted to make sure we address. We'll touch on them now. One is this idea that Crystal Clean is founded on growth-minded, ambition-oriented people from the inside out. And one of the things I've learned over the years as far as great businesses is they create, build, and sustain great relationships. And that's not just with customers. That's with their team. And one of the things Jeff shared in some of the videos is how you guys work diligently to include them in like family. And this is a real big part of the cleaning with purpose kind of concept, if we're going to be purposeful. And typically the way I define purpose is we think about improving the quality of people's lives somehow. And on the other side of it, for my work, it's growing people's businesses somehow. I'm blessed that I get to do both. But what you guys have shared, and I've seen this over the years as we've worked together, is there's a real drive to assure that we're taking care of the individual. For work, Jeff, you commented on this in one of the videos, as part of their journey in the work scene, but also outside of the work scene. So it's a real key distinction as we think about that Crystal Clean philosophy and the way we approach it. Any comments, Dave?
I think it shows on the wall back here. Years ago, we adopted that core value, family first, then the client, then the company, which we can go into later, but it's the exact opposite of how big business works. They put the bottom line, the shareholder comes first, and we've flipped it around completely.
Yeah.
And a lot of reasons for that. It's just how we want to live.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just our choice. Life is short. We want to enjoy it, work with friends, work with family, and that's what works for us.
I love that, and it's such a testament to the way I always say from the top down, but from the CEO or the owner down. I can tell when I walk into a company, and I walked into thousands of them over the years, that how the front desk behaves is a reflection of how the owner is. on the 2 or 3 tier kind of businesses, but even the big ones, where they're 15 levels deep and all that kind of stuff. So, Jeff, was there anything you wanted to add about what we shared?
Well, it's true. We have the core values, and it's always a little bit of an evolution. We continue to work on it because we're on the inside. We want everybody to feel that sense of family, and a lot of it lately has been education, I think. We keep talking about training and working at training so that they feel a part of the company, a part of the family, so that they're not just being sent out to wipe down surfaces and clean toilets. They understand how to go about doing that and why we're doing that, and how it makes our clients feel safe and secure and clean. So we keep trying. It's not perfect, but Dave follows his own core values. So
I love that. So today's goal for our kind of inaugural episode is to go over the values, talk a little bit about the history, or a lot about the history, whatever you want to do, and then how it folds into this current version of Crystal Clean and why it's such an exceptional company today, and what the difference is, but also how we're not only about the tactics. We talked a lot about consistency over the history of our journey together, which is critical in the cleaning industry, systems, consistency, but also the values. And some of the values that I've always felt from you, Dave, and then Jeff, as you came aboard, were care, compassion, courage, trust, authenticity, honesty, respect, and the fact that you guys are very reliable. Like, you get it done. The other side of that is when you live into those values, if there are problems, and typically in any business there are problems, customer will come up with a complaint. It isn't a blame, excuse, denial kind of scenario. It's more of a, hey, okay, thanks for letting us know. I'm where the buck stops. Maybe if they talk to you, Dave or Jeff, let me work through this and we'll make it right. And that's a critical part of the fabric of what I would classify as an exceptional business. So, Dave, you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, I would agree. It took me many years for someone taught me that you have to view a complaint as an opportunity. And it's a chance to really make the customer happy, to respond, and not view it as, oh, brother, now I got to fix this and that. And we were cleaning a large telephone company building, and the facilities manager, he's the one that taught me. He said, when my phone rings, people aren't calling to commend me or thank me. They're only calling because there's some problem with the building and some complaint. He says, I just accept that and view it as an opportunity to fix it, make them happy, and make things run smoother. And that changed my attitude. View complaints as opportunities, because we're all imperfect. We are going to miss the boss's trash can or forget to vacuum a certain room once in a while. It just happens. And it's a whole different mindset, I think.
Yeah.
So
that's the best that we can do as humans, I think, is to be there when a problem rises, because that's living into a couple of the values we talked through. Compassion. If we define compassion, one of the definitions is recognizing somebody's struggle and having a desire to alleviate it. And when we really get that wholeheartedly and people feel our body energy, that is congruent with the fact that we really do want to help, which I feel from both of you all the time, that's a critical ingredient to an exceptional business.
And one other thought, too, we have to recognize early on that we are in the service business. We're here to serve people. Yeah. We're not selling widgets or what have you. So it's not a commodity. It's a service. How can we help you? And people remember that. For the most part, they respect it. And, of course, there's some who are just looking for the absolute lowest price, and that's not our target client anyways. Just accept that approach, and it works.
One of the things that I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs on is that you're a customer service business that happens to do X. Mm-hmm. It's about the relationships.
Yep.
And we've talked about that at length in some of our video work, Jeff.
In fact, the reason we, in our core values, use the word client, we can talk about this. At one point, we hired some business coaches years ago, which helped us tremendously. But he asked us, how many customers do you have? We said, well, we have about 120 customers. He goes, no, you have 0 customers. You have clients. Walmart has customers. Target has customers. They sell them a product and they never see them again, Yeah. But with us, it's recurring accounts that we're working for, and that's a client. So it's an ongoing relationship, not just a one and done. We sold something, And then, of course, that's how you get referral work and
Yeah.
business grows. But, yeah, so we've asked our employees that how many customers do we have, and they give all kinds of numbers. And somebody in the back will go, 0. We only have clients. And then it's a big difference. So
That's a really great
Yeah.
distinction. And it's really interesting. One of my life lessons, and I think you both know my story, is I built an internet business in the 90s, sold it in October 10th of 2000, and retired at 29. And people are like, how did you build that to 10,000 users as you and your wife started it? And it was very much around that philosophy. The differential there was it was a deep relationship with every person or family that came in to sign up for internet. And they knew we had them covered from classes to books to working on their computer. If people purchased a computer, the way we were exceptional was we went and installed it in their house, set it up, let them sit at it. We taught them how to get on the internet. They'd have a family. Sometimes we'd stay for dinner. It was like that. But the point I'm sharing, and the reason I'm sharing that is that when we understand being exceptional business, we don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting as far as growing the business. People talk. People are like, you wouldn't believe what happened last night. They came out and installed my computer. They trained us on it, made sure it all worked, made sure the printer worked. Then we had them over for dinner. They ended up staying 3 or 4 hours. But that was an exceptional level of service. And I think that that's the distinction between customer and client.
And you probably have a client for life, too.
Yeah.
You know.
Solid. They would try out other services that came online just to compare, and they'd report back to me. It was
And
cool.
that's where the referrals come from.
Yeah.
That's
So I think if we can solidify one lesson for our listener, that is, what are you doing to create clients that have exceptional experiences with you? And one of the sort of fundamentals of that is this power of great, or I'll even say exceptional relationships. So let's take a step back in time, if you're up for it, and we're going to really think about, where did Crystal Clean start? Like me, did you have hair on a day back in the 80s?
I was going to say that it started back in the 80s when we both had hair. I actually had a ponytail for a while.
Yeah.
But no, I inherited that from my grandfather. I can't blame the stress of being an entrepreneur on that.
Right.
But yeah, way back in the 80s, I had a similar business in Illinois, outside of Chicago, a small commercial cleaning company. At that time, both my parents and grandparents had retired here in Bonita Springs in Lee County. And if you're from the Midwest, there's the I-75 corridor comes straight to western side of Florida. And it's kind of mandatory that you have to visit and eventually retire in Florida. And so, at any rate, my friend started this business, Crystal Clean, in 1981. Around 91, 10 years later, he was looking for someone to manage it. He was going to move into other companies. So I came down in 91. I figured my parents and grandparents are already here. It's inevitable. I've got to retire to Florida, so why not come early? I think I was about 35 at the time, somewhere in the mid-30s. So I ran the company for him for about 6 months and realized immediately that there is unlimited work here in Southwest Florida, and it remains that way today. You see people moving here in droves. And the key, though, was how many good people can you find to build a business? It always comes down to people. And so I bought the company after 6 months and ran it. Back then, we were just working out of, the office was in the house. We had a storage shed, rental sheds where we kept all our equipment. And
Storage shed.
so moved down here, enjoying the weather. I'd been to Florida every year of my life to visit, grandparents and such. We would always drive down. So moving here, at first it was like I'm on vacation and, I'm having fun playing golf 3 times a week. And then I realized I need to do something here. I'm not on vacation. I've got to build the business. And, the family thrived here. We loved it. And we just slowly built up the business. At that time, all our eggs were in one basket, as it were. We were cleaning they were called Sunbank back then. All the Sunbank locations was our main customer and a few car dealerships. And I realized, we were too concentrated. And so I purposely worked on building up lots of small accounts in the early 90s. And sure enough, eventually a company out of Miami came in, underbid us at SunTrust by like 35%. They were bidding less than what we were paying our people. So I'd like, there's no way we can do this. And of course, they lost the account a few years later, but that didn't help me any. So we lost that big account, and that was a real eye-opener. So we continued to work on building up smaller accounts. Eventually, we found that down here, our target customer was what we call association cleaning or condominium common areas. Mm-hmm. And that's really our sweet spot, and we focused on that. And the other thing I noticed right away in business here is we had a lot to learn, of course, and I did, but the competition was horrible. So they were in the same boat. A lot of companies that really didn't know what they were doing. So that's where the education came in. And fortunately, I love to learn and just start learning as much as I can about business and how to build it up and what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's how we got started.
A couple takeaways from what you shared. One of them is this. Is a lesson to people acquiring bids, be very careful of we'll call it an outlier, somebody who's really lower than the rest. And this is something Jeff's talked about in some of the videos we've done as well. You just have to be careful about kind of looking under the hood of the business to see why the price point. And the thing that I love, and this podcast will help with this, I believe, is to understand the exceptional value across spectrum. The consistency over time is an issue, but also the team, the proper licensing too. Sometimes you got to, as a business owner for liability, you got to do the research to say, is this cleaning company properly licensed for the type of work they're doing with me? Because that's part of the tell on the business that you're hiring, those kind of things. Any thoughts with what I've shared?
Yeah, we kind of found our sweet spot right in the middle, as it were. The big nationwide companies, we can't compete with them price-wise because they purposely underbid the work just to get market share. And we can't compete with the little mom and pop company with no employees because they don't have any of the expenses. They're working for cash under the table. They don't have workers' comp insurance. They don't have liability insurance. So we have all those expenses if we're going to run things correctly. Yeah. So we can't compete with either of those. But where we could compete was right in the middle. And we've educated clients over the years that, like I said, even if you don't choose us, choose a locally owned mid-sized company. That's where you'll get the best service. And that's worked for us well. So we're kind of in that middle sweet spot, so to speak. And another thing I discovered, too, about myself, there's only two things I'm really good at. One is making mistakes. In fact, I'm so good at it, I have a hard time finding new mistakes to make. But fortunately, the second thing I think I'm really good at is learning from mistakes and not repeating them. And that's helped a lot because we've made a lot of mistakes over the years. And now as we talk with other cleaning companies our size, we find out they went through all the same things, made the same mistakes, found out how to correct it and work through it. So that's what's helped us. What we call it up north is a school of hard knocks.
Yep.
And, how did you learn? Well, just kept making mistakes. I think the young generation now, what they call it, fail fast, fail often, kind of thinking, which applies more to tech companies. Just do it. If it's wrong, we'll fix it, kind of thinking. So that was definitely a learning curve there. But
I want to say that we talked about the values as we framed up today's conversation, and that lives into growth-minded, ambition-oriented. Two really critical values. And I just want to make sure the listener understands that these values, however you get to terms with it, and your mistakes made times I'm not going to make the mistake again or try not to, is a big part of the growth concept and your commitment to growth. And it's just mission critical, at least from what I've seen over the years, that from the top down, we support and we have a psychologically safe place for our team to go, hey, I screwed up and I did X, Y, or Z that wasn't in alignment with what we were supposed to do. But the manager, the owner are like, hey, you know what? We all make mistakes. What'd you learn from it? Not that, as you can probably imagine, neutral or negative, just abusive kind of answer. Sometimes it's not terribly abusive, but it's just, you just don't feel psychologically safe. So one area I'd like to just talk about a little bit is that when you think of psychologically safe, doing the right things for your team, for the customers, Any thoughts on how you've created this psychologically safe environment and how you maintain it?
I'll let you take that one.
Sure. In hiring people and cleaners specifically, they have lots of opportunities. Honestly, if a person can clean, they have different places they can go, and we recognize that. So we kind of have a structure in place where you want to know people who might want a good job at a good company. And so for that, Dave knows we maybe have to pay them a little more up front.
Yeah.
We want to secure them with letting them know they're part of the family. Here's the shirt. Here's the Crystal Clean University. Maybe we've talked about that before, and so that they feel integrated into the system.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the assignment role, what kind of hours do they need? How many days do they need? That is always a mixed bag. Some want full time and then some. Others just want part time. Some like to work evenings. Some early mornings. Some a very standard day shift, which we can accommodate with day porter roles, as an example. Lots of evening cleaning in the office side. So once we can plug all the pieces together, they can find a job that is satisfying to them, and we want to maintain that. So that's why we work diligently to make sure that with our operational team, we have lead techs that are constantly going out and helping them if they need some assistance in a moment. That lead tech's there for them. Need some supplies? Lead tech's going to take care of it. That lead tech is a really pivotal role that, frankly, I don't know how many other companies do that. As far as I know, it's kind of unique to us in the moment in this area. But it's really paid off in having that connectivity to the cleaners, and that's what we strive for.
That's amazing. Anything to share?
Yeah, just to clarify, when Jeff's talking about lead techs, most companies would use the word supervisor. We kind of got away from that because that carries with it the idea you're watching people work. And a lead technician, for one thing, they have to be a leader. And to be a leader is much different from a manager. As you know, managers just manage people, tell them what to do, and collect data. Whereas a leader, it involves inspiring people, motivating them, encouraging them, teaching them. So I hate to use the word supervisor, but when we're teaching them how to be leaders for the technicians, the cleaners, and the technician part of it comes in too, that there's so much to learn in this industry. People think of it, you're just a janitor, but there's so much to it now. This is a huge industry. It's evolved. Using the right chemicals, the right equipment, and safety concerns. It just goes on and on like any industry.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by lead techs. Those are what others would call supervisors or trainers. And getting back to the people part of it, one of the mistakes I made for many years was just hiring a warm body, because we had a job to fill. And they know how to clean. Here you go, clean this office. And huge mistake. So we learned the hard way to hire slow and fire fast. You probably heard that phrase. And so now we have 2 levels of interviews. The first individual manager that interviews prospective employees will ask a certain set of questions just to vet them right away. You can cut out 80% of the applicants almost immediately. If they get through that, they go to the HR manager for a second set of questions and interview, and much deeper. And the purpose of that is to see what they feel about our core values. Do they want to work in a family atmosphere as like a teammate, not a prima donna? In other words, you could be the best cleaner in the world, but if you have a bad attitude, we don't want you. We can train anybody to clean if they have a good attitude and they're willing to learn and they can work with others. That's what we're looking for. And it took a while to discover that. Again, I mentioned the business coaches. They're the ones that really pushed us in that direction. And it spent a fortune on it, but it was worth every penny to change the company around and put the family first. And then the needs of the client, and then lastly, the bottom line, profit.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, it works. May not work for everybody, but it's our approach to life.
Yeah.
Life is short. We want to enjoy it. We're going to have fun at work with our work family, and of course, involve our literal family as well. So.
Well, I just want to bring up a couple of really critical points. I think you both know I'm one of the hats that I wear as a certified high-performance coach. I've coached 7,000 sessions in the last 12 years.
Wow.
These are typically entrepreneurs and professional athletes, stuff like this, and Fortune 500 CEOs even. And one of the big things that we teach in high-performance coaching is that people support what they create. Everything's a co-creation and a collaboration. And this ties back to what you shared about leadership and the difference between leaders and managers. So for those listening, there's a huge takeaway here in that it took time, energy, and effort in coaching for you to recognize and realize, how are we co-creating and how are we inspiring? We don't have supervisors, we have lead techs. And in that word, or those words, is the word leader. And it's really critical that that's part of a co-creation and collaboration, meaning that the lead tech is there not to direct and tell them what to do, but to be like, hey, you got a problem? Let me show you how it's done.
Yeah.
Like they're stepping in front of it, showing them like value in advance, so to speak, where they're doing the work to get them on right track, to do the work properly and to make sure it's done consistently and everything. And you really want to make sure that we pull that out. That's critically important for the sustenance part and the culture. We think about the culture as a part of it's the values, but also it's part of the overall feeling. When you get to meet with you guys, it's very obvious in this podcast. It's like, I like these guys. And maybe there's people that don't like the way we're approaching it. That's not our people. And that's fine too. So that's a big part of this piece. So one more thing, as you think about the history of Crystal Clean, were there any particular milestones you had to overcome? And one of the ones you just shared, and this may be a great starting spot, was we recognized at some point in our journey we needed to bring in a coach to take things to a new level. But were there any particular milestones in the growth of Crystal Clean that maybe coaching is one of them, or anything else that were like, okay, this takes us to a brand new level? Anything there?
Oh, my goodness. Well, the first thing I think of milestones is as the company grows, and you talked about growth, it actually gets easier because you have more resources, more people to draw from. You have more employees if something comes up to cover situations. So that's a milestone. I would say in that regard, when I started, we had 12 part-time employees when I bought the company. When we got up to about 30 or 40 full-time employees, that made a huge difference. Now I didn't have to do every single aspect of the company, and I could work on the company and not in the company so much, where I didn't have to go out at night and clean a new account. I could focus more on getting new accounts and so forth. Yeah. Other milestones, I think, were moving out of the house. That was a biggie. I know it's not exactly what you were referring to, but once we got our first office, that was a huge step forward. And then very small office, but you had a location. People could come there to apply instead of meeting them at McDonald's or something. And then moving to a much larger office, I think we had about just up the street here, we had 3,500 square foot office. That was a big step, and that was right in the middle of the Great Recession. So the rent was low, but it was scary because at that time, you don't know if we're pulling out of this. Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? And of course, they had the bank bailouts, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a scary time. But our philosophy was, you got to be courageous. You got to take chances in business. You have to. And it worked out well. Another milestone while we're on that thread was, I think it was just 4 or 5 years ago, our landlord said, I need this space. I'm not going to renew your lease. And I was like deflated. Like, what do you mean? We've been here 4 or 5 years and maybe longer. And he said, however, I've got this larger space, twice as big, down at the other end here. I'm like, what am I going to do with all that space? It was over 7,000 feet where we're at now. And it was another milestone because he built it out exactly to our specifications. We drew where we wanted everything, how we wanted it designed. He built it out. The rent was reasonable. It was far bigger than we needed. But within, I think, 6-9 months, we filled it up. It's like, wow. But the point I'm getting at is the morale shift when the managers and employees and lead techs all came to the new location, like, wow, this is nice. And their motivation just doubled. It's like, wow, I want to be a part of this. I want to, it's amazing. And I'll mention that to prospective clients too, that when they're moving into a new building, here's what you're going to find out. The morale is going to double. You'll see this. And they go, I know, we've seen that. And that was a big milestone too. And then you mentioned the coaching, that basically we're paying people to kick our butt. Every Thursday they'd come in and kick our butt and tell us what we're doing wrong, and it was painful, but we needed it and it helped. That was a big milestone there too. But thinking back to growing the business, I think when we got our first big account, which was a large conglomeration of car dealerships, much bigger than any account we'd done before, and we just said, hey, let's go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? And Jeff and I joke about that all the time when we're bidding large accounts is, do you want to do this? Well, what's the worst that could happen? What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Of course, a lot could go wrong, but you have to take chances and just learn along the way. And that attitude has helped us a lot. So once you get that first big account, you realize, this is really no difference. Same thing, just bigger numbers.
Yep.
And, but it reminded me of a friend I had in real estate, and he started out, I asked him, how did you get so big? And he says, well, we started out with, flipping houses, doing this, doing that. And then we started bigger projects, shopping centers, and then apartment complex. And he said, it was the same thing, just bigger numbers. And it really was. But to make that jump, that milestone, it's scary.
Yep. And
sometimes things don't go right. But, again, our philosophy is life is short. Let's go for it.
Boy, if that isn't a testament.
What was it?
It was like something you could put on a bumper sticker.
I think it was Mel Brooks that said, nobody gets out of here alive. So what do you got to lose? Let's go for it.
Awesome.
So,
Jeff, was there anything you wanted to add about milestones you've seen in your time here at Crystal Clean?
Well, I came in about 4 years ago, and I've never been afraid to sell big projects. And Dave is a visionary, so he's never really been afraid to take them on. But it's funny, we'd hover at the computer sometimes and go, I'm going to push send. And Dave would say, what's the worst that could happen? And we'd push send, and we've won some nice accounts together. We've almost doubled, and it'll be safe to say in 5 years we'll have doubled the company since I've been here. We'll double it again in another 5 years. Because there's still more work out there, and the sales balloon that we have even now, there's just so much growth in Southwest Florida, but we never want to get away from the fact of what we bring to the table. Again, we are in that sweet spot where not everybody wants us. We don't fit everyone's needs, especially when it's just budgetary. We don't take on the large facility management role, but we find that a lot of people who've been using large facility management companies and janitorial companies really like to hear from a local family company that has the width and breadth that we do of 100 cleaners and an organizational structure to make sure that they get the service that they want, and that's what we've kind of carved out together. And it's a work in progress, but it's gone well, and it's going to keep going well, and I think we're both pretty excited for that. Dave's not ready to throw in the towel.
I love that.
Yeah.
A couple things that come from this. This comes back to the values conversation. And this is a big thing that I really work with a lot of people I coach. And I'm just so fortunate to do that work. I just feel like it's the best use of me on this planet is being here with you guys. It's coaching these people who are all about growing, doing better. But there's an inherent part to their belief system that they want to serve, be of service to others. The essence of it, it's to assure that when you see me or you take our services or whatever that would look like, that you leave feeling uplifted, taken care of, cared for, all these kind of principles that we have. The big question that we always ask is, how do you scale and keep the values center? So what I mean by that is, as we grow and we continue to grow, it's very common in industries, as you get to a certain tipping point of a certain number of employees with certain organizations, that the exceptional part of the culture starts to, if you think of it like a fuel gauge, it starts to come down to moderate, not so exceptional, and then things can start to fall apart. The customer can feel it and so on. So do you have any guidance or thoughts on, and Dave or Jeff, where would want to answer that, how you scale and keep the culture?
When we get a call or an email to a bid request and we go in, the most common complaint we get is, all cleaning companies are the same. And the person I bought the company from even said these same words. He says, I go in there, they tell me everybody starts out great and then they taper off. And, how are you guys going to be different? So they're already disgusted with the cleaning companies. And it does happen a lot in this industry where you go in with a bang and make the place look great, but then you just kind of taper off as the months and years go by. And so anyway, to counteract that, we have scheduled inspections that the lead techs do on regular frequencies. They fill out a report. We have our own app that they use on their phone where they can fill out a report for the inspection. It's tracked. It's if there's work to be done, that's followed up on. And then we also have a secondary quality assurance where one of our managers will call or visit the client, not just inspect the work, but talk to the client. There's a thing in this business that no news is good news, and that's not true. If you're not hearing from your clients, you should be worried. So it gets back to that complaint can be an opportunity. So the manager will call on a set frequency, could be every 2 weeks or every week with large clients, maybe every 4 weeks with smaller clients. Actually call the contact people, say, hey, are you happy with the service? Is there anything we can do? But the other aspect with both the lead techs and the managers who are calling or visiting is we have regular training programs. So like the lead techs, they're in here every month for training. And for example, we have to keep reminding them, you have to get to know the client. You have to get to know the cleaners, be their friends, ask them about their lives, what's going on. Don't just, do an inspection and leave, make sure they see you, talk to you. And when you become friends with the clients, it sounds bad, but it's very hard for them to fire you because you're friends, you're working together. They know you're going to respond when there's a problem, and there are going to be problems. You just have to accept that and fix them.
Yeah.
So that's worked for us. If I could go back 1 second, I missed a big milestone, and that was Jeff. It's only been 4 or 5 years, but when we hired
Thanks,
Jeff,
Dave.
I left that out. It was a biggie. We never had a general manager before, and Jeff came in, and I don't even remember, what did you do the first 6 months? I can't remember.
I did what I know how to do. I come from a corporate marketing sales background, so I came in and said, well, I can sell. So I figured out the marketplace and just started selling on a daily basis, plus learning from Dave. And that's where he doesn't maybe even recognize what a good coach he is, but he allowed me to do that. So I can sell, I do that. I learned from Dave, and I still learn from Dave. I'm a general manager who has the advantage of an owner who's really involved. So I just keep learning and absorbing and embracing. And if Dave ever does say, no, I really am going to take a month and go to Europe, we can cover it. I'm up to that point where I go, I've learned enough about the company, and I want to do a good job for Dave, but definitely he's given me the advantage of being able to do that. But it started on the sales side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of my philosophy. Life is short, so I try to travel as much as I can, see the world. But anyway, when Jeff came on, like you say, started out just working on sales. Prior to that, I was doing most of the sales. We did have some less than qualified salespeople before that. But the point is he really viewed this as his own and grew with the company very quickly. So came in sales and then eventually started managing and then became the general manager. It may have even caused a little friction with others who'd been here for years, like, why is this guy progressing so fast? But we worked through that, and when he became the general manager, that took a huge load off my shoulders and took over the sales and the marketing, works with you a lot on SEO and et cetera. And that was a big milestone. It's very recent, 4 or 5 years in our 43 years of being here, but that's a biggie that I left out.
I love that.
I meant to say we have a great SEO guy as well. Yeah.
Well, I just want to celebrate a couple things here. One is, Jeff, the fact that you have, let's go back to the core principles and values of the company, you feel that you have a psychologically safe mentor in Dave, and he's guided this and exchange of wisdom with you, knowledge, skill, and you've absorbed it and applied it. There's so much to unpack and celebrate with that. So kudos to both of you for that. That's, you think about, especially people who've been in business for decades. So often I hear of company owners, and this is the kind of people sometimes I rescue through high performance coaching, that they get caught up in their own ways. They become bitter. That's one way of terming it. And then they wonder why their employees are talking behind their backs and all this kind of stuff. And it's that big piece to this puzzle. Me being on this journey, Dave, you and I met probably in 2010 or 12.
Yeah.
I was speaking and doing different things then. And the big journey of SEO, as we've talked about as a side note for the listener, is now becoming an AI journey.
Right.
Because as of the recording of this, next week Apple will be releasing their new round of iPhones. And they're also going to be talking through their new iOS and iPadOS, and it has Apple Intelligence built in. So what we're really aiming for with this podcast is to stay in front of technology, because what we're going to do is leverage the content of this to feed the AI beast, we're calling it. So when people search, instead of going traditionally to Google or something like that, or going into their phone and saying, find me a cleaning company that can help with X, Y, or Z, they will simply talk to AI, and AI will be like, here's some options for you. And do you want me to go into detail about Crystal Clean? And AI won't go to your website necessarily. It'll have it in its hive mind. And we're feeding the beast through that with this very podcast. Because it might say things like, just from this podcast, as it learns about us, that this is a culture-rich company who cares deeply, who believes in honesty, integrity, unconditional love for their team and for the family, friends that they've created along the way. And that's a critical ingredient, and I just want to put an exclamation point on that for a minute, is that there's been, and Jeff, you've talked about this with me too, there's been a drive and a direction to assure that we're staying in front of or with technology. Sometimes it's stuff we do procedurally. Other times it's bringing in people like me and others that are like, hey, here's the things we need to be scouting out for the next 18 months to 3 years. This AI thing is a big one. Is there any particular point that you want to make, Dave or Jeff, about the drive to leverage current technology or upcoming technology to assure that we're playing in that realm? Part of the growth-minded, ambition-oriented. Anything you want to share?
It's big. Go ahead.
There's no way around it. No matter what you do, learning to use technology in your favor is an absolute. And so, and I think in the evolution of the company, there again, within the time I've been here, we've made a focus of trying to take advantage of technology, even in the simple things, just sharing information as an example.
Yeah.
We are now using an app, and now we have multiple versions of app for different applications in our field, just in our arena. It is the Crystal Clean app, and it services different parts of the company. And as we, of course, have you helping us with the search engine optimization and how Google thinks, that's something I've dabbled, but you know how Google thinks, and you're helping us go, let's take advantage of this and make sure that when someone is searching for post-construction cleaning or common area cleaning or any of the other things that we can facilitate for commercial cleaning, they're finding us. And that's been working. And we want to make sure it continues to work. And that kind of technology will be your friend if you know how to use it. So we have what we know, and sometimes we get other people who know even more. But we know that using technology is a must. It's an absolute.
Yeah. One thing, the value of accountability, meaning that when systems are put into play, there's an accountable plan. There's an audit or an assessment. And the app, it sounds like to me from what you've shared, there might be photos taken that assures the job is complete. So when a part of your team is out doing a job, they're like, oh, top of mind, I have to assure that I clean this so I can take a photo of it. And that story is shared inside the app for others to see and be inspired by. So there's an inherent accountability with this, layered with the culture that we're doing what's right. We're ambition-oriented, we're growth-minded. And that's a big piece to this puzzle. I just wanted to make sure we brought that to a point. Dave, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, like Jeff mentioned, the Crystal Clean app has really changed everything, because there's a cleaner version, there's a lead tech version, and then the manager's version, different access to information, but it's all there. We can pull up any client and see all the information about that client, a history of when it was inspected, what were the results, when was the last time we talked to the client, face to face. All that is documented and recorded, and we can see, oh wow, we haven't talked to this guy in 2 months, we better get on that. Or this one we're calling too often, let's back off a little. So another thing with technology, though, is in the field of equipment. You know, most people know what a Roomba is. They may have them in their home, and they're pretty impressive now. But the commercial robot vacuums are amazing. You know, we've been out to the ISSA shows a couple years in a row now, and the technology there is just astounding. So you can take one of these large robots, looks like an R2-D2 type unit, put it in a building. It will learn the entire floor. It can be programmed. You can control it remotely. It will vacuum the entire, 30,000 square feet of office space and not waste its effort like you see some Roombas going around randomly. Well, these follow an exact pattern, and they learn. You know, mentioning AI, it's actually learning and improving each time. They are expensive, but in certain applications, it can save a huge amount of labor. And vacuuming is very physical, and especially if you're doing 30,000 square feet, that's hard work. So then the cleaners can focus on more detailed cleaning, perhaps. Another advance is in battery technology. So, for example, we have floor scrubbers with newer lithium batteries that just weigh a couple pounds. You pop them in the scrubber, and you can go for several hours. You take the next pair, put that in. You can just keep going instead of the big old, golf cart type batteries. Okay. And they're much lighter. They last like 10 years now. So it's just advanced. And what we're just getting into now is cordless backpack vacuums. So they're running on small batteries that you interchange, and you can go for hours. And they're not so heavy like the old ones. And you have no cord. So when you're going around a large office area, again, it's much easier on the technician. It's much faster. It's... Again, it will pay for itself in a matter of months to a year. You just have to take care of it. And so technology is huge, even in the cleaning industry. Yeah. It's changing. Chemicals are getting much better, much more effective. We have glass cleaners now that are also disinfectants. That never existed 5 years ago. It just didn't happen. So you can use one product to clean the mirror and the sink and, disinfect, kill 99.9% of the germs and bacteria while you're cleaning and not switch products. It's never ending. The more we learn, I use this expression, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. The more I realize there is to learn. It's just a never-ending loop. And AI is a biggie. It's exciting. We like technology. We try to employ it as best we can. We don't fear it. We've never feared change. It just doesn't bother me. Just like you just adapt.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for that, because here's what we're taking away from that. The ISSA show. That's a show. Is it like in Vegas?
Usually in Vegas.
Okay. And that's a place where they're demonstrating the latest in tech. Mm-hmm. And you guys, it's so important for you to go to it, that you're there and you're really integrating with what that technology is. And the biggest part that I'm hearing from you is this. You learn new things, but the highest performing businesses take action. And specifically, they take decisive action on what they learn. Yeah. And so when we come back, typically when I go to my version of those shows, I come back, and on the plane ride back, if it's in California, 4 hours, I'm doing an action list. Yeah. And I'm prioritizing the top 3 things we got to move forward. And I'm putting it in my schedule. One of the things we teach in high performance is if it's not in the schedule, it's just a dream.
Right.
So we put it in the schedule, we move forward with it, we take action on it. And I just want to make sure we heard that part of the Crystal Clean experience and culture, is that when we learn new things, we're seeing where they can be applied, putting them in play, teaching our staff, moving that forward. And it comes right back to that consistency over time. I noticed you said you've been to a few shows, so there's a consistency with that. Any thoughts with what I've shared?
No, it's amazing trade shows. The grand scale of it is just overwhelming. I mean, I think there are 400 or 500 vendors there. It's just you can't see it in a day. For example, it's too big. Several football fields of products and software. It's just absolutely amazing. Not to get too far off track, but I do love to travel, and many other countries, especially in Europe, Scandinavia, that they are so far ahead of us in technology. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I went to a Chinese restaurant. The food is brought out by a robot. I don't know of anybody here that's even up to that point yet. I think it was 20 years ago. I was in Australia, and the person came out to our table to take our order on a little, like an iPad, and takes the order. It's sent right to the kitchen. So they're adopting this technology way ahead of us. Now you're just starting to see it in, an Olive Garden or an Outback where they're taking the order here. But they were doing this 15 years ago. Yeah. So there's a lot to catch up on, a lot to learn. Yeah. And I would love to get to an ISSA show in, usually I think they're in Amsterdam, I believe. Okay. I would like to get to one there just to see what they have. That's good. They're very early adopters, and they do not fear technology like some of us do here.
Yeah. So, a couple points with that. And this is the thing, because I do a lot of international travel. I'm always the observer and seeing what people are doing in different businesses wherever I go, and saying, what's the lesson or the fundamental here that we may be able to bring back and apply? Maybe for my business, or I might be able to talk to you about it or Jeff about it and say, hey, I learned this over there. Here's a unique thing they're doing, or a unique piece of technology that they're using, something like that. Jeff, did you want to add anything with what Dave shared?
No, I think it's covered pretty well. I agree with all of it. I know we've said things like, if you're not learning and growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And Dave's not one to sit back and die. We want to learn, we want to grow. Yeah. And ISSA has been a big part of that. I've enjoyed going for the learning that happens. People bring their new technology to a show like that. It's a conglomerate cleaning show, actually international. And so there's not much you won't see if you're looking for it.
Oh, that's so good. So the final part of our work today, and we're probably going to divide this podcast up into a few parts because we've had such deep conversation in different areas, is I would just love to hear, like, maybe go through the services you offer and then the ones that we're really aiming to grow, so we have a great understanding of what the different things Crystal Clean provides, and then the particular ones that we see a lot of need with. And Jeff, you and I have talked a lot about this day labor idea and post-construction. This part of it, as Dave shared earlier,
yes.
Southwest Florida has grown just a little bit since the 90s. You saw, and the part that I want to make sure of, is you saw a lot of abundance then, and it was a micro part of what it is today, and it's just abundance everywhere. Yeah. So if you want to go through the services, then we'll kind of break down the top three that were.
You'd mentioned post-constructions, and we are seeing more of it and pursuing more of it. We want to grow that side of the business. We're, frankly, getting really good at it. We have specific teams in place, and a part of our warehouse is dedicated to having all the right tools in place just for post-construction cleaning. So as Southwest Florida is expanding, you go down around the airport and up and down, from Fort Myers, Estero, Bonita to Naples, the growth, the apartments, the commercial side of it, warehouses we've cleaned, apartment complexes is another thing that it's so large in scale. Again, it's the scary side of things. You go, that's a lot, and it is, but we're ready for it. We've geared up for it. So we put ourselves in that market fully, but we'll never get away from our common area cleaning. I mean, the associations and the condos, they always need people to come and go on a daily basis. Large office work has come into that as well. So for office cleaning on the commercial side, where they need to have day porters and they need to have evening staff that's very consistent and making sure that systematically we keep the facility clean. So many stories of places we've walked into that it's been another growth part of the company because they've tried the mom and pops, they've tried the national facility managers, and they find that if we have a miss and hopefully we correct it on the front end, cleaner's going to be off. Well, we have cleaners to replace them. We have a system to make sure that it gets hit. If we get a call, we make sure we send someone out to take care of it. And so we've been doing really well in that arena, the large office cleaning. And then you have all those ancillary services that come with it. So when they ask about floor cleaning, and we can do all the floor cleaning they need, the power washing that they need, take on the buildings, the roofs, soft wash any given area. So in Southwest Florida, because of the salt, the sand, the humidity, there's just surface buildup everywhere on everything. Yeah. And they want a company who can do it all. And we want to be that company. In fact, we need to make sure we can provide all those services. So we've put together a system that if they ask, can you help us with this? We absolutely can. I mean, it's true. Yes is the answer. So we pick up a lot of extra services as well.
Love that. Dave, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, in regards to construction cleaning, I had an aha moment about a year after Hurricane Ian. I really hadn't been down to Fort Myers Beach much. A couple of our clients there, one in particular right next to the pier, we cleaned for 27 years, 7 nights a week, completely washed away. It's gone, not even there. The slab itself is broken up. But anyway, I went down there about a year afterwards and took a drive through Fort Myers Beach and saw how little was rebuilt already. And even today, there's so much rebuilding that hasn't been done, due to money issues, insurance, what have you. But as I'm driving through, I had this aha moment, and I'm like, who's going to do all this construction cleaning? We're one of the larger construction cleaning companies here, and we can't handle a fraction of this. There's just so much. And then it dawned on me that most of the contractors there working on the beach are from out of state. They're here temporarily, building. And I came back and we had a meeting and said, we need to really gear up for construction cleaning because 6, 12, 18 months from now, this was in 23, early 23, I guess, this is going to take off. There's more work than anybody can handle. So we need to gear up the staff, the know-how, the expertise in it. And we did. And like Jeff's saying, now it's become a huge part of the business. But in addition to that, I was watching a YouTube video last night on growth in different areas of the U.S. And there's 2 states in the U.S. that are growing even faster than China. And everybody hears how China's just booming for many, many years. And those 2 states are Texas and Florida that are growing far faster. And the reason is people are moving here as fast as they can because of the weather, the economy, there's no state tax, et cetera. So in addition to the rebuilding here in Lee County from the hurricane and people moving here so fast, like Jeff said, there's apartment buildings are just popping up like weeds. And in the past, we would have said, oh, that's too big a project for us to go clean, 200 apartments. How would we do it? Well, we're doing it. We found out how to do it, figured it out. So that growth is incredible in this area. And like I say, I saw it 30-some years ago. And I always said, as long as the sun keeps shining, people are going to keep moving here because they're tired. Even if they're only here 6 months, doesn't matter. They still have to build places to live and restaurants to serve them, et cetera. Yeah. And the problem we used to have was labor. Couldn't find enough labor. For example, to work on Sanibel, because obviously the workers can't afford to live there, or in certain areas of Naples, they can't afford to live there. But we've solved the labor problem, how to get good people and how to retain them. So, we use that expression, the sky's the limit. Yeah. And our goal isn't to become as big as we possibly can. We want to grow, but we have had times in the past where we grew too fast. I remember one year, I want to say like 2007, somewhere in there. We grew 50% in 1 year, and it was too much. It was hard to handle and keep up with. So at any rate, there's unlimited work out there. Nobody can handle it all. So it's just a matter of doing it right, getting your target customer, not just every job you can get, because then you're just, running in circles and such. But so that was a big milestone, too, what we were talking about earlier, is seeing what happened from Hurricane Ian, just devastating, and billions and billions of dollars being poured into reconstruction, remodeling, and new construction. Yeah. It's just, I don't see an end to it anytime soon. Yeah.
A couple really good points you made. One is this constant drive to scout opportunity and then think about and work with the team to kind of collaborate on how we can be best service. And I think you guys are like a tag team. Batman and Robin. It's like, let's get it. Let's get it. How are we going to do it? How are we going to make
Robin,
it?
I like that.
How are we going to rock this in such a way that people are going to feel the Crystal Clean impact, culture, difference? And I would love to talk through this idea, Jeff. One thing that I've always thought about is the very first interaction somebody has with a company. I think about this even through a restaurant. When you walk in and that first host or hostess is incredibly caring, compassionate, and so forth, gives you a frame for how this works. So when people call in and you get on the call with them, it sounds like from their perspective, there's an urgency. There's a thing that you want to assure. I hear you. Let's take a look. Maybe you go out on site right away. I've heard you say within 24 hours we're going to be, a couple of our video sessions like, hey, I got something that came up. I got to handle. I'm like, you got it. Because there's a drive to assure, even from that first call, the customer is completely taken care of. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jeff or Dave? Jeff, you want to start?
I will, because there is a kind of a typical thing that happens. And we'll start at the basics where they're looking for some type of commercial cleaning. And we get so many calls and leads that come in online just because they found us on Google. And thank you, Charly. So they found us, okay, and I'm hearing more and more because of the work that you're doing. I went through the videos and I went through your website, and you have great Google reviews. If it's not that, it might be a referral. But we get so many leads in like that. So the first conversation is usually kind of working through the how did you find us? And, oh, that's great. And it's very positive. Now, what's the problem? Let's talk about, you have a pain point. That's why you called us. And what is that? And how can we help? And so the typical process would be we have some type of location. If it's common area cleaning, if it's a post-construction clean, a large office building, let's take a look at it. And of course, in touring with the client, now you really have time to talk with them. And we try to develop a process of drawing out from them what it is that's causing them a problem, pain points, things that they've maybe tried and failed to get fixed. All these things resonate to go, okay, well, we have the opportunity now. And then when we talk about if they want to work with a company like Crystal Clean, we do talk about the core values. We do talk about our process and our people because while Dave and I are very engaged with many of our clients, the fact is when we're out of sight, out of mind, they love the cleaner, they love the lead tech. We rarely hear from so many of them because that's what we want to establish. And when people start to hear that and they're like, yeah, I've tried all the other, like, let's see what it's going to take. Let's put something together. Okay, we'll build a proposal. And of course, we're happy to come and present. We always offer to have them come visit us, which I think is unique. We're a cleaning company. I don't know what they would expect, but come visit us and you'll meet some people and you'll see what Dave has put together here. And that's almost always a lock on being able to secure a new client. So we have a process that is very typical for how it works start to finish on a good lead that turns into not just a good opportunity, but then a client. And of course, as you know, like I said, some people just aren't a good fit. In that process, sometimes you weed out the ones who I'm just looking to get the lowest price that I can. And when they say, I have 6 people coming in, I'm waiting on 5 more quotes or whatever it is. Because usually we're the first to call, and often the first to give a proposal because we try to make sure we get those things done quickly. We know it's important to the client, especially the right client. They see the proactive approach and they really like it. Yeah. The others that put us off and say, well, I'm waiting for the 5 other quotes, usually not a good fit.
Got it. Anything you want to add, Dave?
Yeah, I think we learned too, again, from mistakes is to pre-qualify the client. We don't want to work for everybody. There's a lot of them out there that are not a good fit. And we actually explain our core values, and if they think that's ridiculous or don't like that idea, they're probably not going to be a good fit. And that's because we're in the service business. We're selling an ongoing recurring service in most cases. If we were selling a product or a commodity, sure, it doesn't matter. You just want to sell as many as possible through the internet, nationwide, what have you. It's like that old Walmart joke. We lose 50 cents per unit, but we're going to make it up in volume. Obviously, that doesn't work. You're losing more and more and more. So you have somewhat limited resources with your people and your organization, so you don't want to waste them on the wrong clients. And it's nothing against them. Some of them aren't super tight budgets, and they're not going to pay the amount to do the job right, and you don't want to get caught in that game because they're never happy. You're not able to deliver quality service. It's just a lose scenario. So yeah, learning to qualify prospects in advance has saved a lot of time and a lot of headaches later down the road.
I just want to really reiterate this, is that there is a great qualification process for those that may be listening to the podcast that are newer to business. Sometimes when we start, we may have to accept clients that aren't exactly a good fit to get us to a break even, so to speak. But beyond that, there becomes a tipping point where you can be very clear about a qualification process that aligns you with the right customers. And when we think about the right customer, and it's kind of what we'll work to end our beautiful, it will be a multi-part podcast, is we think about the values they carry, the resonance when we meet with them. Do they feel like they're a good fit for us? Do we feel like we're a good fit for them? So often, a lot of the people that I coach courageously, in your position, Jeff, where you go and meet with them, they'll ask, how do you feel? Are we a good fit for you? And if we are, why? Why us? And they sell themselves on you. And it's really powerful when you hear them talk, and it can be a tell as to whether, well, you're a little more expensive and you're not aligned with what our budget is. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Well, then in our mind, we know that may not be the right customer because we know the value we bring, not the commodity, so to speak, of the cleaning aspect of it. The part that I love, and I think it's so critical people hear this, is that there's a vision, a strategy, a plan, and a set of action steps that Crystal Clean creates. And it's not a singular creation on your end. When you're out assessing a job, you're co-creating that vision, that strategy, that plan. And I would imagine, Jeff and Dave, when you're out meeting with customers, that you're helping them see around corners they didn't know exist. You know, we talked earlier about the workers' comp scene, the proper licenses and insurances, to help them understand that, you know, if you work with a company that might be a mom and pop shop that hasn't been properly licensed, the liability is on you. Right. And you got to be careful about that, especially with workers' comp and issues along that line. So it's just really reassuring to understand that's part of the value-packed price point that you guys provide. Is there anything you want to expand on with this idea of vision, strategy, plan, and action steps? Dave?
Well, the vision, of course, has gotten adjusted over the last 30-some years. And I use that expression like a sailboat going into the wind. You can't go straight. You have to tack back and forth. But eventually you're working your way there.
Yeah.
But to back up a little bit with when I was first starting here and realized, wow, I need to get out and work more. You know, I'm not on vacation here. So I need to get motivated. There's no way to motivate you when you're an entrepreneur. You have to find motivation. You don't have a boss to push you. You have to push yourself. Well, I was reading the newspaper. This thing we had back then in the 80s. You know, you'd open it up and read it. And I saw an ad for Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy were coming to Fort Myers. I never heard of them, but I knew they were motivational and sales speakers. So I went downtown, saw that, and since then, I've probably read everything Zig Ziglar's written, watched all his videos and this and that. But one thing he mentions in almost every book and video and talk is this expression he uses: you can get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want first. And it's just like, wow, that makes so much sense. So when we go out and talk to prospective customers, you know, it's how can we help you? What can we do for you? You know, like you say, are we a good fit? And they can tell pretty quickly, they can tell if you're genuine or not. But it's almost, you know, I'm not the most altruistic person. I'm not saying that. But if you can take that attitude that I'm going to help people, you do. You get everything you want, basically. But you have to do that first, and you have to help them. So when we go to and talk to prospects, we will give them suggestions and help, whether they hire us or not. You know, maybe you should consider this or do that. You don't need 5-day-a-week cleaning here. This could be done in 3 days a week. Oh, really? Wow. Here's what I suggest. And they may still not hire us, but it doesn't matter. They appreciate that you weren't there just to make a buck. You want to actually solve a problem. One thing our coaches would always tell us is you have to be the solution provider. They have problems, like Jeff said, they have pain points. You need to find out what those are and solve them for them, because they don't know the cleaning business. They don't know if they're paying too much, too little. They don't know why it's important. But that aspect is critical in all areas of life, you know, not just business. If you can adopt that attitude that I want to help enough people, then I get what I want. You know, it's kind of like your mom telling you, you know, you can go out and play, but you got to do your homework first.
Yeah.
And I think you got to do the work first, and it pays off.
Well, I want to celebrate in the life of Zig.
Yeah.
And
Great guy. And I know
Brian
a lot of
Tracy
young
had so
people
many
never
mentors.
heard of him, but
just get on YouTube, search for Zig, and watch him do his work.
That accent of him, I could listen to that all day. That Missouri, I think is from southern Yazoo City, Missouri.
Yeah, so good. Jeff, is there anything you wanted to add as we talk through this? Anything come up?
Maybe that's part of why Dave and I get along so well. I saw Zig in a similar time frame up in Fort Wayne, Indiana when he came through, and I was just getting into business. And it did set a model in my mind, the type of thinking that goes along with succeeding. It's really about helping others. And once you get a flow, everybody that knows Zig remembers his pump as well. And I came into Dave already had a pump working, so I didn't have to start from scratch. But we're keeping it going, and we're keeping the flow with all the things we talked about in mind, and back to the core values. You can never get away from having good people.
Yeah.
And Dave has built really good key people around him, both in the office to orchestrate, but at the cleaner level and that education, training, lead tech, operational roles that we have. Dave's done a nice job of surrounding himself with good people. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about other good people.
But I've known that since I've met him, and I think it was in 2010 or 11 or 12, somewhere in there. And there was just a resonance between Dave and I. It was like, wow, this is amazing. Because you're on the hunt, especially if you're, I think about it through the observer mind, that you have an idea of that ideal person you'd want to work with or the company you want to represent, and that they're doing good things for the world, really helping improve the quality of either people's lives or business or something like that. And there's always been that connection for me. So it's an absolute honor being in this podcast with you, doing this work. A couple big points I want to bring up as we wrap up. One of them is this idea that you guys live into creating great visions, living into the strategy that comes from the execution of the vision, developing great plans, not only for Crystal Clean itself, but for customers. And then the hardest part for so many businesses, taking decisive, consistent action and being, and I love the words you shared, Dave, this idea of, I've never been afraid of change. So if we have to evolve, we have to change, we're going to bring it in and make it rock. So as you think about our journey today, I would love to hear from each of you, maybe 1, 2, or 3 points that really sum up some of the life lessons that have come out of this for you. And it may be related to Zig's quote or maybe something else. But Dave, we'll start with you. Just what were some big things that came out of our journey today?
Wow, there's a lot.
I know. It's going to take a minute to unpack.
In a service business in particular, we're not an internet business, so it's a people business, and that's the key. We've made mistakes hiring the wrong people, even managers, key managers at times, and in every case, it didn't work out, and it was painful to remove them from the system and replace them with the right people. And it took years and years to get the team we have now. But it's always evolving, and we're always trying to improve that. And it can be exhausting, but you have no choice. You have to keep getting the right people. And that's, again, why we say family first, referring to our family at work as well as home. So, for example, not to get too far off track, but if a manager, an employee has a serious problem at home, like, hey, don't worry about it, take the time off, we'll cover it. That's what family does, so to speak. And it comes back and pays dividends. Yeah. So I would emphasize it always comes down to people and how many good people can you find?
Well, I think that the point, what you just shared, if we want to give a takeaway here, is great businesses are composed of great people. Yeah. Great businesses are about great relationships. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that relationship, as we unpack and define it, comes back to the values we've talked through, and I'll say them one more time. Care, compassion. I'm going to even say unconditional love, because that's where that comes from, where if you have a problem, through thick and thin, we're here for you, and we're going to work through this. But it also comes down to courage, trust, reliability, honesty, authenticity, openness. And a big part of what you've shared today is one of my big takeaways is that we want to be very open from the first call that you come in with to really understand your struggle while working to see if we're a good fit for you, and then see if we can, provide a proposal or a strategy that would be helpful for you, not only for the next month, but for life. And there's this inherent part, customers for life. That's another big takeaway for me, and something that I've known about you, Dave, specifically since the early 10s. And
Early 10s.
with Jeff coming on in the last 4 years, it's like just take that, pour some gas on that fire and watch it go. Jeff, was there anything that were big takeaways or thoughts that you want to share?
In Dave's humility, he forgets how nice of a person he really is, and it does make the difference. When you talk about authenticity, to go out and spout how good you want to be and how you want to help others, it doesn't do any good unless you back it up, and Dave has backed it up. That's why I'm still here and not fearing change. We came through COVID. I came in during COVID, and that was a huge change in my life. I said I was at a corporate trade show marketing, and here I am with Dave, and I'm still here with Dave because I love working with Dave and Crystal Clean and the learning process and not fearing the change to come with it. Go embrace it, absorb it. I'm like Dave in that regard. I can't learn it fast enough.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a long ways to go there, but I feel like I'm becoming a cleaning professional and I can add some value. But it's because of what's been established already. Yeah. And so Crystal Clean, looking into the future in the area, I hope that, like I said, in a few years, we're just saying that Crystal Clean is the go-to family-owned and operated company that will provide the services that you need at a commercial cleaning level.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a good, solid start, and we just want to maintain it.
Oh, that's so good. So as we wrap up, two things. One, I want to tell you both what an honor and a privilege it is to be here with you. It's the best use of me on this planet to work with you guys, to move these things forward, to take these values, put them in the world when a world that we see today especially needs these kind of values as examples, as mentors. Just having a quote, somebody calling in, you receiving good energy from Crystal Clean. That's like, oh, there are good people in the world. They don't necessarily say that to us, but they feel it. And it's to amplify that is everything I'm about. And that being said, I'd love to end with, if somebody wants to meet with you, get a quote, a proposal, like tell us the course of action. Is it call, get on website? What's the best way to move things forward with Crystal Clean?
Currently, probably our website for most people. You may want to go to cleaningfortmyers.com or cleaningnaplesfl.com because we have 2 locations now. We didn't even talk about our growth in that regard. We have Fort Myers and Naples. But our phone number is consistent, 239-936-7700, posted here. And either way you go about it, if you call, you'll get a real human. Yeah. I enjoy saying that because some companies, it's the endless push 1, 2, or 3. But our website will tell you a little more. And if you're interested, of course, there's a way to apply for a job. There's a way to get our attention and say, hey, I need a quote. And we will respond as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Dave, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, that's about it. You talk about milestones earlier. The internet has changed everything in business. It changed personal lives as well. But it's so easy to get information out, get a hold of people, find out who's in the company, what they're about. Yeah. And you're talking about calling. I think one thing that set us apart, too, is, and we've done this for many, many years, when a prospect calls and wants a bid, if possible, we even go the same day or the next day. I can come out and I'll see it no matter how busy we are. And they are just blown away. Like, I called 5 people, 4 didn't even show up. 3 said they'd show up and didn't come. Whether, it's a good job or not, they're just blown away that you actually respond right away. Give us a call. We will
respond.
Talk to you absolutely as soon as possible. And that goes for clients, too. If a client has a concern, we don't wait a day or 2. We call them immediately to see, what do we need to do? Oh, I'll fix it today. They're like, really?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we do. We're a service business. There's, of course, some cases you can't, but, just service.
I think that's such a tell is that you want a cleaning company because it's typically a lifelong, we aim for it to be a lifelong relationship. Mm-hmm. And if you're not returning the call and showing up, like that's a value tell.
It's so common. It's unbelievable.
And it's something we talked about at the beginning was this Midwestern kind of vibe of like we do what we say we're going to do and we get there and we try to do a great job and we try to grow from it. And we're also there unconditionally. So that means if there's a problem, call us. We'll handle it. We'll do our very best to solve it and move it forward. So I just really want to land that as we end this podcast. So to be clear, call, visit the website, and all the contact information will be with the episode, and you've already gone over it. And we just really wish all the listeners who are hearing this get inspired, have a great mentor, realize that when you go to hire or go to be part of a company, thinking about the CEO, and I love this on your tag on your door, it says visionary, I believe.
Yeah.
Somebody who's really establishing, this is how we're going to run this. And it's a co-creative, psychologically safe environment, which I believe Crystal Clean has. So I just want to say thank you guys so much. Any final word, Jeff, before we wrap up?
Dave's a visionary. But to keep him humble, if you notice, it also says chief cook and bottle washer.
Oh, I did see
So,
that.
he's willing to dig in and do the work.
Yeah.
No final words.
Okay.
Old
Well, I think
school
those are great words.
expression there.
I love it. Dave, any final words as we wrap up?
No, it's been great. I feel more inspired now.
Yeah, totally.
Just discussing this to go out and try harder.
So I am going to ask one bonus question, and that is, what's one thing that you really loved about our time together, this podcast together? Just one thing. Jeff?
The positive energy. I think that's what, I'm with Dave. I'm sitting here going, we're doing a lot of things right, I guess, in my own mind. And because we want to do them better, because we all know we fall short and things happen. It's not a perfect world for any of us, but we feel inspired to try to keep doing a good job. And I feel that way more when we have these conversations.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. There's just always more to learn, always more improvement. I think it was Lexus years ago, their expression was the relentless pursuit of perfection, I think was their tagline. Yeah. And you can never reach it, but you have to keep trying. You have to keep improving. So we don't have all the answers. We're certainly not perfect, but we're going to keep trying to improve. And
yeah.
That's all you can do in life in general, but especially in business.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I loved is just the pure inspiring energy of both of you. And there's three parts to what we call the teachable content pyramid. There's this idea of principles and perspective at the top level. There's the idea of a mindset, the sort of teachable mindset that we have. And then the bottom is where it all comes together. It's the tactics. So we've lived into all three parts of this. The thing that I really love about this is that we're going to be able to take so many clips, so many inspirational pieces that we'll put in rotation almost for life, maybe on a monthly or quarterly basis, that will continue to, like a lighthouse, continue to shine the light on what it means to run an exceptional business in those three spectrums. Bigger picture perspective, here's kind of how we're doing it, and then here's the tactical part as well. And this will be a inspirational beacon for everybody else. So you guys up for another podcast in the future?
I want to hear you say the name of our podcast again. You did that really well.
Cleaning with Purpose.
There it is.
Rocking it out here in beautiful Fort Myers, Florida, on this beautiful day. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
That's a
Thank
wrap.
you.